Good afternoon and welcome to the middle of the African bush. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Dangerous Dave on camera and I'm very distracted by alarm calls. Dave, see through that gap there, I can hear the Franklins going nuts here. Let's go have a quick look over there. Remember, if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or just pop it on whichever feed you might be watching on. There's been lion and leopard in this area this morning. Let's just go around onto Rebecca's Road. Isn't this exciting? Alarm calls, Franklins, squirrels, all going crazy right at the start of drive. Just double check for tracks here. Yeah, well, I'm checking very carefully around here, see if I can find any lion or leopard tracks. Let's send you across to James and David, who are just down the road.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to our sunset game drive from Sabi Sounds in South Africa. And my name is David, and what a great start we had a few seconds there with the kudos. Very excited to be here after such a long flight, as I told you the other day, from Kenya. And this has given me a very, very good beginning, and I feel very much at home. Most important, remember to keep in touch with us on the hashtag Safari Live, on Twitter, hashtag Safari Live, and also on the mainstream on the YouTube. Alrighty, we'll go back to our kudos, and then we'll see what else happens from there as we bumble around. Very good, and there's a female kudos right there, and to the right there's a young male one. You can see that. And where I come from in Kenya, and especially in the game reserve that I know very well, called the Masai Mara or the Mara Triangle, we don't have any kudos there. So this makes me feel very good. It excites me a lot to see a different antelope or different species that we do not have back home. One thing would tell me it's more of a semi-arid antelope because of the vegetation we have here. The Mara being of very high elevation, we are talking about 2,000 meters or 4,000 odd feet above sea level, and we get lots of rainfall there. I do not think they would survive there, and maybe this could be one of the reasons why we don't have the kudos in the Masai Mara Game Reserve in Kenya. But other parts of the country in Kenya, we got areas like the Tsavo National Park, where we got the kudos. Very attentive she is there, and just looking at us, comfortable. And you can see them moving their ears, just trying to locate any movement or any sound. We'll wait here a few minutes to see what else they will do, but in the meantime, we got a gentleman who is on walk who would like to say hello to all of you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to another bushwalk with Steve, and this time I've got VM on camera, or should I say once again. We had the Shadulu female 2 mornings back, which was fantastic. So it's the wildebeest and myself out on bushwalk, and we are going to go with the impeccable Herbie over there to go and see if we can find those 2 mysterious lions from this morning. I think Brent is also trying to do that, as well as David, so let's see if we can give them a hand. And then once we found them, because you know that's what the bushwalk team does, we'll move off in the direction of where Thandi was last seen and see if we can maybe find her and see what she's been up to. Last reports was she moved away from her kill, Possibly because Hukumuri was calling. That's what I heard from James. But she's abandoned the kill and left. So that is clearly a sign of protection of the cub. Her meat is not as important as the cub's life. So for her to just abandon it and leave is probably in response to a new male coming into the area. So I suppose there's a lot of mothers out there would do that. Rather save the cub, live to fight another day, and then leave the meat. We know Tundi's a very successful leopardess, but exciting nonetheless. Who are these two lioness lurking somewhere in the bushes up ahead? Well, time will only tell. We've got Herbie out, the expert, tracking expert, and we're going to see what abilities we're going to be able to find this afternoon. Magic Dragon Wizard, I love your name. And yes, on walk, please come and join us, folks. Make sure you got binoculars, some water, some appropriate shoes is always a good thing. This time of year, there's lots of funny little thorn sticky things that are going into the socks, so you need some protection for your socks as well. And number one thing for a bushwalk, enthusiasm. That's always for me the best. And if you have an appropriate wizard-like stick, magic wizard, bring that as well. But while we mission through here and see if we can pick up on any fresh signs of those animals, let's go to Brent and see how he's getting along.
Look there, look what we just found. It's Hosana. Hello, Mr. Moo. What are you doing here? I was looking for Tundi. I left the area and we just went back, and there was a bit of the carcass left in the tree this morning. I know, but we just went back there, and I was like, a leopard's been up this tree. I could see some fresh scuff marks. Well, Hosana rubbing himself against the front of the car as he goes past. But I said, something's been up this tree recently. I just said to Dave, I said, there's no carcass there. And I think it was this little scallywag. We're no more than about 50 or 60 meters away from where that carcass was. He's looking like he's been sitting on a bit of food for the last little while. Well, apart from what he managed to... You're not going to believe what just happened right behind us. Hosana was drinking. He's come to the pan here, Dave. And he just crossed the road, and then this little tree right here, right next to where he was, a squirrel literally just launched Superman style straight out this way and ran as fast as it could to a big enough tree that's there that Hosana can't get to it at. Oh, squirrels. They are funny. But well, that's a nice way to start the afternoon. So I went to check there to see if the lionesses possibly might have gone and tried to raid that carcass. Oh, why do you sit there just behind a stick? Paul, I cannot tell you whether Hosana is near Hukumuri. Do I need to move, Darby? That's okay. Because we don't know where Hukumuri is. The last we heard, he was on Sibambili on an impala kill, but that was a day or so ago, and I haven't heard any fresh information since. Hello, Scallywag. Squirrel, I think you got off lucky. If he had known you in that little tree, life might not have ended so well for you today. Hosana, the scourge of squirrels across the northern Sabi sands. He's now having a little nap. Oh, here you go. First leopard of the day. Oh, and it is quite warm for this time of the year. Oh, squirrel, you are going off much better. And you can see he's just moved into a little bit of shade, even though there's quite a bit of cloud cover at the moment. And the little prince, or chief, been wondering where he's been hiding for the last couple of days. Okay, well, we're going to play the patience game here with Hosana. And while we do that, let's send you across to David, who's got something to nibble on.
Alrighty, Hosana might know we got something that he likes eating. We got the impalas here, and I'm not sure when is the last time he had a meal. Because here I was counting a few minutes ago, we have about 30-40 odd impalas, and he might be lucky to get one of these for either dinner tonight or for lunch maybe, or breakfast tomorrow morning. And these are the impalas, and we just had one roar a few seconds ago, a male, definitely. And more often than not, when they roar, they'll be trying to stimulate these females here. And one of them, I think, is having an oxpecker there on top of it. That could be the red-billed oxpecker. And what the males will do, they will roar and try to stimulate or make these females to ovulate, because the rotting season is the month of April and May, between the lunar moons. So this could be the time now when rutting should be happening. And it took me about 1,800 miles to come here to know that the dropping of the lambs of these impalas, it's very, very synchronized. That's one thing I have never known, because back in Kenya, where I come from, the breeding, or when the lambs are dropped, it is not very synchronized like it is here. So it is interesting that after so many years, it has taken me 1,800 miles to come and learn such an interesting fact that come November, December is when, after rutting these females, we'll be bringing down the young ones. Impalas, when they mate, you'll get, the males will first go for each other, Julie, and whoever comes out best, because at that particular time, the testosterone hormones are quite high. Whoever comes best in all shapes and manner will end up taking care of the females and mating with them. The challenge, like that beautiful male you can see there, Julie, the challenge comes if he will have, say, a harem of 20, 30, 40 females. It's not easy to take care of them, and for a long time, at one point, he'll wear down and a new male may take over. Yes, so they may have one depending on how good he is, but at one point, if he wears down, a new male will come and take over and continue what he was doing. I hope that helps answer your question, Julie. Beautiful lights coming through there to the impalas. Tesla, your question is, how much do I like zebras? That looks at what he asked. And if that's the case, I love zebras for only one reason. The patterns they got, the black and white. And all my life, I've never loved different colors, yellow, green, blue, brown, name it. But anything in my life that comes in black and white will always win my day. So yes, I'm not sure, Tesla, what colors would you like? But for zebra being black and white, yes, I love the zebra. And as we wait to hear whether we'll get more noise from the male impalas right here, we'll take you across to Steve, who is on foot again.
Thank you, David. How marvelous is it that he's out? I'm sure he's got some wonderful stories to share with you this afternoon, and we have found the last place, we think anyway, where the lions were. Neither wildebeest or myself were on activity this morning, or Herbie, so we kind of tracked the lions back to where they were, and they've probably disappeared into the thickets. So we're going to be very careful and skirt around here, see if we can get any activity of them coming in, possibly out on the other side. It's possible with all these impala making all their noise that the lions have actually gone off in search of a hunt, because when the male impala are so busy, they're not paying attention. It is quite thick. I'm just going to try and get it around. Fluffy ossicones, I have no idea. I haven't even seen a picture yet of who these lions are. So we don't know. There's talks of them being part of the Torchwood Pride, part of the Talamati Pride. I have only potentially seen the Torchwoods once, and I didn't get a very good look at those females, in all honesty. And the Talamatis I've never seen, so I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you. But it's very, very thick in there. We're going to sneak forward very slowly. Okay. Okay, well, it seems as Brent has been very lucky and Hosana's materialized as he always does. Let's go back over to him.
Well, I tend to think you make your own luck, Steve. That's how I view it. Now, you can see him, he's still sitting in the same spot, having a bit of a groom. He's got a bit of a full belly, and I know David is very excited about spending time with our gorgeous leopards here in the Sabi Sands. So David is on his way here, so we're going to hand over to David in a little bit, and I think we'll continue on for Tundi, but we'll wait for them to get here. And it's always going to be interesting to see a new guide's perspective on the big cats, especially with all David's experience from Kenya. Now, of course, here's little Hosana. Thomas, the male lions quite often get names as well. The Birmingham boys have also got names. Nena, Tino, Mfumo. Am I going nuts? Have I forgotten one? Usuku. There we go. So yes, certain individual male lions, and even sometimes in certain circumstances, certain female lions will also get names. But leopard, male and female, will all get names. Cheetahs as well. Quite often cheetahs are, if it's males in a coalition, the coalition will get a name, and that also goes the same with male lion coalitions. Amy, it's how do I tell a Hosana apart from the other leopards? Amy, I've been watching him since he was a sausage, literally not even 10 centimeters or 10 or 15 centimeters long. I've spent many, many hours with him. He's quite recognizable if you look at his face. I don't even know his spot pattern. I just look at Hosana and I know it's Hosana after spending so much time with him. All different leopards will have a slightly different facial structure. I mean, if you look at Tundi's got quite a squat face. Kamuri as well, in comparison to Tingana. So you can definitely see that they are different individuals, but generally the best way to tell them is from the spot pattern. If you don't know the leopards very well and you need to sort of figure it out, their spot pattern is the top line of spots above the last line of whiskers. Unfortunately, he's keeping his out of sight at the moment. and I will find you. Now, as I said, I've been following Hosana since he was tiny. I found Hosana for the first time when he was about 6 hours old, born in a den, probably as the crow flies, about 800 meters away from here, and him and his little sister Shongile. Let me just see if I've got a nice front or side shot that I can show. There we go. Spot pattern. This is how's that, Dave? That is quarantine, and I'm talking about this line of spots over here. So you see that strong line all together, and some whisker still in it. That's the line of spots above the whisker. This was quarantine when he was a little boy, though. Probably about the same age as Hosana, actually. Little quarantine. He's not so little anymore. It's always great to see Hosana. And the squirrels are incessantly chattering at him at the moment. Hey, little man. Now, speaking of other young leopards, Jared's buddy Tumba was seen in Ottawa, which is to the west of Elephant Plains, part of the Singita Traverse. Okay, where are you off to now? I'm going to find another spot to snooze. As I said, we're just waiting for David to catch up with us. And I think I see them now coming around the corner. Has he flopped down in that long grass? He has to. So I just wanted to show, there we go. Perfectly spotted there. It's got nice cool grass to lie in. David. So I'm just calling David. I saw him coming in behind us. David, if you just come in behind me, I'll move out for you. There we go. I wonder if this is David's first time seeing Hosana or not. Okay, I'm just going to help David get in here. In the meantime, let's go to Steve, who's looking for those lions. If David, you can just come in straight behind me.
Okay, well, I don't think we're very far away from Brent. We can actually hear him. So those lions they were here, they've moved through this sort of drainage depression. We're not sure exactly, but he's just over there. We could hear him talking, because, Brent's quite loud, so it's hard to tell exactly how far. So Hosana's just there. Lions are around here. We're just checking these sort of axes to see if they've come in. They kind of moved in this direction. But who knows? Who knows? Little chief, watch out. There's lions around. I'm sure he's bumped into them from time to time. We're just listening here. Herbie is hearing something in the distance. And off he goes, so we shall follow. Jocelyn, the dry season, basically you see all this grass that's here. That all kind of drops and disappears, all the leaves on the trees pretty much fall off. So the camouflage disappears, but what also disappears is the food resources for the animals and also the areas that they've got to accumulate in for water. So it makes life easier for the cats to hunt because the animals don't get as strong. They actually lose condition quite quickly. They're trying to make as much out as they can out of the poor vegetation that's left. So the cats, including the hyenas and the wild dogs, do very, very well in the dry conditions. But that is how it works. That's how the system operates. You go through the ebbs and flow. We've come through a drought period, so now we're in a bit more of a wet period. So we're hoping there's going to be more forage through to sort of later in the year than normal. Even though some of our water points are already drying up, some of them looking quite promising. So that is where it happens. I'm sure in the next few weeks, as it gets drier and drier, I mean, you can see the yellow leaves starting to form on this bush. Autumn is definitely upon us, a bit late if anything. Even the Phalaenoptera is starting to lose some leaves, it seems. So we're in the sort of drainage area where Thandi spent a lot of time with her cub, with Tlalamba, and also we're not far from where Thandi's had her kill of recent. So we're not sure, maybe Hosana's stolen that kill. Maybe he's made his own kill after yesterday's antics in the morning. It's pretty likely that's happened. And no doubt the sounds of the rutting impala have brought the lions in as well. So everyone is excited to follow up and to smash as many male impala as they can. Because they just make it so easy for everybody. They're shouting, they're in the open, there's no need for camouflage. Just run up and tackle them because they've got other things on their mind. Okay, well, it seems as if David has managed to get into position with the little chief. So let's go see what his impressions are.
All right, coming from Steve now, I have to own up and say something. This is the closest I have come to a leopard in my life. I have to be very, very honest with you folks. And I can't believe it. I'm so excited, as much as I'm still very, very nervous, to be live. But how epic is this? I'm talking about 10, 15 feet from a beautiful male leopard. Just been told his name is Hosana. I'm not sure who gave it that name, but I can't believe how close I am. In Kenya, sometimes we see leopards about 300, 400 meters away. We have to use our far lookers, adjust, and sometimes you're not sure what you're seeing, whether they're real leopards or spotted trunks or branches. But here, James have told me for real, this is Hosana male leopard, and I may have to apologize for not having introduced my team player, Sebastian, right there, and someone also very special next to him called James Henry. Who does not like that face? Great gentleman he is, Seb, and look at the magic on that leopard laying down there. Florence, you'd like to know the difference between a leopard and a cheetah. I mean, in general, in size, if you see two fully grown ones, leopards are bigger in size than cheetahs. That's number one. Number two, if you look on the spot pattern for leopards, leopards got what we call rosettes. Cheetahs got like spots or dots on their bodies. On one of these lucky days, if you're going to spot a cheetah, and I'm sure you'll still be watching our game drives, and if you look on the face of the cheetah, it has what we call black lines right from the eyes to the mouth that look like tear marks. Cheetahs will have that, and leopards will not have that. In general, if you look at superiority, the leopards are much stronger, more in charge than the cheetahs. On one-to-one, should they face each other, a leopard, chances are, will bring down a cheetah. Looking on their behavior, you'll get leopards being both diurnal and nocturnal. They'll be active both day and night, and cheetahs in general will be active during the day. That's when they'll go or hunt for their prey. You'll also sometimes see them at night moving, but they'll not be doing the hunting. But leopards will do that both day and night. So a few differences between leopards and cheetahs. Beautiful cat. James, if I remember any one special sighting I had in the Mara of a leopard, was one leopard that should be about early this year, where we had a leopard with a cheetah kill on top of a tree. That doesn't happen, and as I was just saying a few minutes ago, you rarely see leopards, because of what's called predator competition. Sometimes you get lions killing leopards, leopards killing cheetahs. So, and we spot a leopard from a distance, and we thought she had a kill. And getting closer, the killers had spots. And at one point we were like, wow, we hope this mother leopard did not kill one's own cubs. But looking closely, we found out it was a young cheetah. Not very good, a bit sad, but again, it's the rule of the jungle. The strongest, the fittest, the smartest. That's how it happens here. So that particular sighting, James, was very special for me, because I love cheetahs, but at the same time was thinking, the leopards have to feed, and they do not choose who to feed on, and that's how the dynamics play out here. I hope that helps to answer your question, James. We'll wait a few minutes here and see what Hosana does, but in the meantime, let's find out what Brent Smith is telling us.
I'm going to see if David and I can find the beloved Tundi. So, the last tracks from this morning, we're heading in this area. We didn't come into this area this morning, so hopefully she might have actually just gone as far as Chelepan, left Kalamba somewhere around the riverbed and carried on, or she might have just decided to have a nap here. So we just want to make sure. She could have also just kept moving on. You never know. One of my favorite little spots in the Moati here. And we're going upstream towards the dam. And so there's a path that goes in from Chelepan there. There's another path she likes to use coming up just over here. I'm just going to be keeping a very careful eye out. Now, this is a question we get asked quite frequently, and it's a very, very difficult one to answer, David. Now, in places like the poles, it's very easy to see the effect of climate change. Oh, big elephant bull was here today. I'll just show you how quickly how big his feet are. And that mass, we need to move the car, sorry, Dave. Actually, the one in front, maybe. This one? Too close. That one will do. There we go. So there's the back here, and there's the front. I'm a UK size 12 shoe, and he's too full of my shoes. So that's a really big bull, big adult bull. Now, sorry, David, back to your question. Just wanted to also carefully check here that we're not missing any tracks of those leopards. The answer is no one knows yet. Climate change, is a very complicated subject, and there's a lot of thought and research that goes into it, but at the moment there's no way for us to really tell. And climate change is something in an area like where we are that you will only really see the effects of in 20 years or 30 years or maybe even 50 years. So it's unlike the poles where the effects are very easily seen immediately, but through most of the world the effects of climate change are much harder to see, and at the moment it hasn't really affected us. But as I say, it's something that takes place over a long period of time, and there's insufficient data for anyone to make any grandiose claims about how it's exactly affected. We're going through wet cycles, dry cycles, like this area has done for a very long time. So, as I say, it's a very difficult one to answer because there is no real answer to it just yet. People can speculate, and I've learned that if you speculate, you are just talking twaddle. You are not basing anything or fact or data. You are just guessing, basically. And I don't like to guess. I like to be sure about what I'm talking about. So I would say at the moment there's insufficient data for us to make any particularly grandiose claims on whether it is affecting us or not. Okay. So it doesn't look like she came that way. So let's turn around and go downstream in the Moati. Now, as we head in towards the dry season, we will start seeing some fires around us, Romit, and so yes, we do get bushfires. A lot of them are actually man-made, and they're called control burns. So Africa is a fire climax biome. So fire, most of Africa outside of the forest, fire is good. Now, again, it's one of those slightly controversial topics, especially in the age of social media. Now, the Kruger has a mandate from government, and that is to maintain the highest possible amount of biodiversity in the park. That is their mandate. If they do not do that, they are going against the law of the country. Now, and sometimes they have to make very difficult decisions to keep that on. Whether it's fire is not a difficult decision. Fire destroys all the moribund grasses and trees and wood, and creates rejuvenation. Creates rejuvenation of the grass species, and that. And fire is very, very good for the African bushveld. Now, however, you get a tourist. I think the last ones that made such a hoo-ha were from the UK, and they saw a burnt animal. Heaven forbid. They saw one animal that was caught in the fire. That animal could not have been very well to be caught by a fire. The animal's senses are very good. That would be natural selection. And they tried to make a big deal about it on social media. And again, it's people who suddenly jump onto a cause without actually understanding why there's fire, why people do it. So fire is extremely good for the African bush. And so yes, bushfires, and most of the bushfires are set on purpose. So in the past they would have just burnt uncontrollably over large areas. Now certain areas are burnt depending on the type of bushveld, on cycles. On your seep lines or high active grass areas, you'll burn once every 2 to 3 years. So I just heard a little bird alarm calling. Just want to make sure that Tandy hasn't just stopped somewhere around here. So it's a very interesting discussion. So in those areas you'd burn 1 year, then let it rest for 2 years, then burn again. In other areas you burn once every 5 years, and there's a lot of work and a lot of hard work that goes into doing turn that off. The game drive radio is very loud. In terms of determining which areas to be burnt and which not. And then, I mean, they started such a big deal and petitions to stop Kruger burning. Now, if Kruger stopped burning, it would lower their biodiversity ratio and would actually put them in breach of the constitution of the country. And this is all from a tourist who knows absolutely squat about running a reserve or about soils and grasses and fire, that suddenly causes this massive international outrage about Kruger just doing their job. Fortunately, South Africa has a very informed way to deal with people like that. We just ignore them, say what a banana, and carry on with what we do. So just checking there's not leopard tracks. So it's very easy to be an armchair conservationist, and the people in a lot of those positions work incredibly hard, and not for very much money to maintain these wilderness areas. Okay, well, we're going to keep searching for our beloved Thandi and Tlalamba. While we do that, let's go back to another loved leopard with David.
Yes, hopefully Tlalamba and Thandi will be found. I also just gathered an important fact from James that Hosana is Thandi's brother, correct? Very good. And their mother was called Karula. And I hear either yesterday or the day before Thandi had made a kill that Hosana came to finish up today. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm not sure is a sister taking care of a brother or a brother taking care of a sister, but I would say more is a sister taking care of a brother. Just looking up there, the clouds are building up. Nothing to worry. The other day, or yesterday morning, there were no signs of any rainfall, and out of the blues, we had to quickly head back to the camp and get the roof on, and, we survived. But again, that's what happens with the weather here, sometimes in the wilderness, so we always go prepared, but when you're caught off guard, then, pop, there you are. Very, very sleepy cat. Oops, did you hear me? Look this way. Hosana, you got a new face from 2,800 kilometers from here. Will you believe that, Hosana? Oh, he spotted something. It's a moment. Oh, there's a female impala just moving about. Two females, 50 meters or less from where we are. I would say 30 meters from where we are. Two female impalas, unknowingly, not knowing who is right here. You can see them in the background. Two girls walking, and there goes Thandi. Look at him. Look at his body language now. I'm not sure what he's thinking, but very carefully. They can't see him as yet. And I think that one is looking at us. And Hosana just shows up looking at them. He is deciding, do I go or not? Alright, Hosana, what are you thinking? Her belly looks pretty full to me. But again, you never know. Sometimes when the prey just comes out of the blues, they might want to bring it down for any day. She's still looking at the two girls, or two impalas walking away. She hasn't engaged the hunting mode yet, but I'm sure she's contemplating. And maybe finding out if they will stop, and he is going to make a decision. I could be wrong, but from the look of things, I don't think he's very interested. Difficult to judge what is going through his mind. But when you see some nice food just next to your home, chances are you'd want to have it. Well, Hosana, you don't look very hungry. You look to be in very good shape. The impalas in Kenya and the impalas in Djuma, I would say, Debbie, they are more or less the same. Not much different. But I commented the other day to James, I think the ones in Kenya have a bigger rack of horns, the males, than the ones here. And I think he concurred with me, and he agreed. And because we have very good habitat for the impalas in Kenya, they tend to do better. They thrive very well, and we got so many of them. I'm yet to spend my second week going forward here, but I think they tend to do better in the Masai Mara, in the open savanna grassland than here. But I would say they're basically the same gestation period, weight is the same behavior, but we agreed with James. The males could be slightly bit larger and more so the rack of horns. And as I said earlier, the other difference is they do not have a particular breeding season in Kenya, unlike here in Djuma, where the rotting is going on now and expecting the babies sometimes in November. Kenya could be all round the year, but more so during the peak. The peak is more during the rainy season. So Hosana has changed position and like, wow. And thinking, wow, I will go for those impalas maybe another time. And the leopards in the Mara and the leopards here are the same species. Everything is the same. Behavior, weight, gestation period, size, name it. The only one difference, I would say, Romet, is the difference. We see or have seen more leopards here. In under 1 week of being here, I have seen 3 leopards. And James is laughing, I'm not sure why, but he knows the time we were with him there for over a month, we did not see even a footprint of a leopard. In the Mara, it could take you 2 weeks to see one. Romet, can you see me? One leopard. Here, in 3-4 days, or 5 days max, I have seen 3 leopards, and very close. Yeah, apart from that, they are basically same leopards. And back to Hosana there. Not sleepy like when you got here. And if any other impalas might swing by, we'll still stay here. I mean, personally, I told James I'm not leaving here unless I have to, enjoying this up close and candid Hosana. But in the meantime, let's find out what Steve is doing on foot.
Yeah, well, there's some very grey clouds in the distance, blotting out the sky, but making it quite nice and cool. So there's a good chance that the cats have been moving. We've done an enormous loop around where they potentially could have been, and we haven't got anything crossing out. And talking about dry seasons and things we're checking all the little pans and wallows, and you can see how quickly this is drying out. Still a little bit of mud there. Some lovely tracks of rhino in the soil. Some warthog, beautiful warthog tracks over here. Perfect walk tracks. And there's the mud. You see how the clay, when it dries, it actually cracks. And so there's only so many plants that can actually grow in very clayey soil. Jessica, I don't know what's going to happen this year. I mean, we've had some late rain and the vegetation is looking pretty decent. Much better than last year, I believe. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, the world is changing, but the wet season is officially over. But the clouds there suggest that there might be more on the way. But what we've got here is the tracks of rhino in the mud. There's some nice 1-toe, 2-toe, 3-toe. They've been enjoying this mud wallow. They've been carrying away this mud. And that's what makes these bigger and bigger. And if we get more rain, this will fill up again. But these little pans, there's a couple more just down in the little drainage depression. And we're going to go check them. We're hoping. What do you got there, V? A grass. Oh, hello. Look at that beautiful looking grasshopper. A little bit lost. He's in the mud. Anybody know what species of grasshopper that might be? Hashtag Safari Live. I can see on his back that when he probably flies, he gets a really big flash of orange in the wings that come out. And these are the insects that birds like fork-tailed drongos, cattle egrets are hoping that the animals that are moving flush them from the long grass, and they zoom down and grab them because they are very camouflaged. And when they move, grasshoppers like this, quite often they got a flash on the back, and then obviously when they land again, that flash disappears and they just disappear into camouflage. So quite a nice sort of strategy. There, he's just jumped away. Quite a nice strategy for these insects. You give a flash of color, the bird focuses on the flash, and then when you land, it disappears again. So it's something that the turacos do. It's called flash coloration. Some people believe kudu do the same thing. When they run through the long grass, they lift up their tail, and then everything follows that white patch. And then when they stop running, they turn the tail down, and then they just disappear. Guide monkey, you calling this a mud hopper? Well, it would be a good guess, because it's in the mud. If it's a grasshopper, I don't think you get a mud hopper grasshopper, but there'll be two hoppers. Hopper squared. Mud grasshopper squared. Would be interesting. Okay, we're going to follow on with Herbie down into this little drainage depression and see if there's any activity in and around the water, because that's where animals move when it's warm. Anyway, we've seen that the lions always move for water, depending on what they've been doing the night before and depending on what's chasing them. There have been avoca males calling all over the place. It's possible that these two females are from the Talamati pride. And the prides are just seeming to sort of scatter. That's what happens when males move into an area. There's sort of this real confusion about who to trust and who to spend time with. So we're going to assume at the moment that they're from the Talamati pride. But in the meantime, let's go over to Brent and see what he's managed to find.
Well, we're still searching for whatever we can find. I do have an update on the possible ID of those two lionesses from this morning, though. So I've just heard now that the guys saw where the tracks came from and have followed up, and what they've found is the rest of the Talamati pride. So only 5 of them. So the Talamati is quite a big pride. I think there's about 7 lionesses or 8 lionesses. So they've got 3 lionesses there with 3 young males in Buffelshoek. So obviously we've got 2 more here. So what happens is they probably have had altercation, as Steve was saying, with the new males moving in, and they've bombshelled in different directions. And it seems like Tax has just found tracks now of those 2 lionesses heading back to the north, probably trying to get back to where their pride was. So very interesting times with the lion dynamics at the moment. But we are focusing our attentions on trying to find the most difficult leopard to find on Djuma, Thandi. So far, touch wood, my leopard radar has been quite working quite well this last week so far. We found Thandi on foot. We had that awesome sighting of her dragging the impala carcass up the tree. Hosana today. So, well, my big cat radar lions this morning. And I'd say lions are far harder to find at the moment or lionesses at least, than leopards, with those avoca males causing all sorts of havoc. One cat I haven't heard of in a while is Tingano, Virginia, and no update on where he might be. The old wild dog tracks that have been driven over, obviously from a couple of days ago when the dogs were around. Now that's where I wish my dog radar was on. Maybe we'll get lucky with some dogs this afternoon. We've got some, what do we have up there? Little critter in the road. Don't run. Oh, he skedaddled before Darby could get there. It was a little dwarf mongoose. Sorry, Darv. I always go very slowly through this area because it's quite difficult to see tracks. And Thandi does spend quite a bit of time here. Now, where could Thandi be? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down towards Inyala Road South. She might have managed to sneak across into that area there somewhere. So while we check very carefully around here, let us send you back to the lovely little chief of Djuma.
Alright, Brent, good luck with Thandi, and as I said earlier, unless otherwise, I am not leaving this beautiful boy, Hosana. He changed position and actually he even came closer to where we are by another 2 feet. Isn't that wonderful? James tells me to relax, nothing gonna happen. And this is the closest, again, as I said earlier, I've come to leopards. There's even become closer. It's shortening the distance. I'm not sure it wants to know me on one-to-one. Hopefully, I'll be happy to know that. But as you were busy with Brent, or listening to Brent, James also taught me how to tell leopards apart. Yesterday, I said that Lamba, the baby for Thandi, has been positively identified to have 5 spots on each side and 5-5. So Hosana, James has told me, is 3-3, and I've been able now to know where they look and how they identify those spots. That is exciting for me. It could be very, very difficult to do that in Kenya because of the challenge of the wilderness there, and also not being to get that close to leopards because we're very strict there. There's no off-road driving. That's one downside of not getting close to the leopards, or having, not being able to identify them very well. You can see the belly now, as Seb, if you go to the belly, you can see what I was talking about, where we had those 2 female impalas just past. See how it's bulging, and look at the breathing of Hosana there. Heavy digestion, so full, that belly looks good for the next 2 days, I guess. And you can clearly see the undercoat is white. Sorry, is that question again, Luke? Ryunjap, if we got your question correct, is whether Hosana is on a kill now. But as I might have mentioned earlier, the kill was done by Thandi, most likely yesterday or the day before. And what remained, Hosana came for it this morning and ravaged and finished it all. So at the moment, there's nothing left from what Thandi killed the other day. Hopefully that helps to answer your question. But I'm sure, tomorrow, the day after, should also Hosana get hungry, he very well knows how to get his own food. I'm not sure I'd want to be a leopard. Mercy, let me see what animals we have in the Mara that we don't have in Djuma. Let me start by saying what animals we have in Djuma that we don't have in the Mara. And I would say number one, the Nyala. We do not have Nyalas in Masimara. James, you're going to remind me what else. But now let me go to Mara and see what we have in the Mara that we do not have here. Alright, in the Mara, we have some gazelles that are not here in Djuma where we are right now. And I'm talking about the Grand Gazelle. And I'm sure you know how beautiful Grand Gazelle looks like. And we also have another smaller type of gazelle that's called the Thompson Gazelle or the Tommy. They could be found in other areas of South Africa, of Kruger, but I don't think they are here in Djuma, but we have them in the Mara. So the Grand Gazelle and the Thompson Gazelles, I can say for a fact, those ones we have in the Mara, and they are not here in Djuma at this particular year. We also got the hartebeest. How much you ask whether you got springboks in the Masimara? Sorry, no, we do not have springboks there that we also get here in the Kruger National Park. I also reminded, or James just reminded me, we also got the hartebeest in the Masimara, what sometimes you call the Congoni, and they are also not where we are. That's, again, answering your question, Marcy. We also got the hartebeest. It's very similar to Topi, but much lighter in color and different horns formation. We also got the hartebeest in the Masimara, and we don't have them in Djuma. Very, very sleepy cat here. Honey, that's a long order for me, and I may have. You'd like to know how long is leopard claw? Tail, rather. Oh, sorry, tail. Sorry. My apologies. What was the claw? I would think it depends, of course, on the age or the size of a leopard, but it could be anything 1.5 feet to 2.5 feet. It will depend on the size of the leopard. Sorry, I thought it was the claw. That would have been a tough one for me. But yes, the tail, yes. And you can see it flicking still there. Maybe it had your question and it's trying to tell you, can you estimate on your screen how long my tail is? I would think it's a very clever leopard here, Hosana. Look at that. Seb, what do you think? How long is the leopard tail, Seb? Give or take, in meters or in feet? A meter? All right. Seb thinks the same, not very bad. 2.5 to 3 feet. And Stivovo continues bumbling around and making steps. Let's find out whether he has any news for us.
Don't have anything for you specifically. Maybe heard on the radio that there's tracks of 2 lioness have headed north towards Buffelshoek from Vuyatela Dam. Further down this road is where David is with Hosana, so we don't want to go further down here to confirm any tracks coming out. So we're assuming, through Herbie's judgment, those 2 tracks are the lionesses that we've been looking for. Probably trying to head back to the north to sort of regroup with the Telemati pride. That would probably be my assumption. It's not a hot afternoon. It's relatively cool. And my thoughts is they probably would have gone to drink somewhere, and Vuyatela Dam would have been a good option. So we're going to head down in that direction. Come on along with us. Don't forget to send through your questions. #Safari Live. And once we get down to the bottom, we're going to move off towards the east to assist, or southeast, to assist Mr. Brent Leo Smith in his adventures on finding Thandi and Tlalamba. Alan, you want to know about the Birmingham boys? They apparently are the coalition of pretty much the whole of the Sabi Sands at the moment. I believe the Majinga lines are around. They've kind of been ousted by the Birminghams, and now we've got these new Avoca males that have come in. And as I've said before, the Birminghams are just trying to take up too much space, like the Roman army's expansion. You need to be able to occupy that area. You need to be able to have presence there. Otherwise, someone comes along. You heard them the other night if you were watching the show. The Avocas were calling, and they were calling, and they were calling. And what does that lead to? That leads to advertising their presence in this area. And if the Birminghams aren't calling or coming back, well then they're going to lose it. So it's all about staking claim to one's territory. And you need to be there to claim it, especially when there's a challenge. If a challenge goes unanswered, it gets claimed straight away. Brent Leo Smith, where do you get that name from, I wonder? How many prides in Djuma? Well, Djuma's not the biggest property, and the prides sort of move around. I'd say that the sticks are kind of sort of in the south, the Torchwood is to the east, the Unkuhumas kind of take up the west and the north, and then the Talamata even further. But I've only seen the sticks once, and the Unkuhumas many, many times. So this seems to be part of their core area. And the Talamatis, well, I've never seen them before. They are further north, up in Buffelshoek. But leopard territories are much smaller. That's why I see so many leopards here. Lion territories are far bigger. And the fluidity of those boundaries is also quite different, difficult to understand unless you can follow lines or have like a GPS on them and see exactly where they move, how far exactly they move. And it's possible these two females have landed up here in the core of the Unkuhuma Pride territory, maybe because the Avoca males are causing all sorts of trouble and disruption there, and they kind of spent the night here and then woke up and went, ooh, this doesn't smell very familiar, and they've quickly made a beeline to get out again. That's the only thing that really explains the behavior of lions moving quickly during the daytime. Okay, looks like Herbie's spotted. You got tracks there, Herbs? Oh, he's checking. Okay. No tracks. No tracks. So that's my only theory. I can't say because I haven't seen them, but lions will move in response to males and will move in response to territories. Paul, you want to know the largest male lion coalition? I've only ever come across 5 or 6 I think. But Paul, call. Interesting. I think I've just said that twice, Luke. But anyway, the largest I've seen is 6, but I'm not sure. There could be with a P. Now you're saying C to me. You're saying C, but it's obviously Paul, which I thought it was Paul, and he says Paul with a C. So the communication in the ear is not that great. Lion prides, the largest I've seen is 5 or 6, but I did once have in Singita and Kruger Park, there were 9 subadult males that were looking to be a coalition. One of them got killed by 5 males, and then those 8 moved off, and I moved away by that stage. So I couldn't tell you what the largest recorded is, but I have no doubt Mr. Brent Leo Smith will have the answer to that. He has seen all of the lions in Africa by this stage, so I'm sure he'll know which is the largest recorded coalition. Elise, you reckon it was a common stick grasshopper? Well, that could be very plausible. I need to check my grasshopper book. I don't have one, but I've got an insect book, so let's have a look at that. Thank you for the answer. And I think on that note, we're going to go over to Brent Leo Smith himself.
Hello, hello. Now, still no sign of our beloved Thandi. And we are just going very, very slowly through these areas, checking down towards the drainages. And also when you go slowly, your ears work a little bit better. You can hear more alarm calls. Now, I often get accused of being the fastest driver, which is absolute twaddle. I only drive fast when there's something to go to. When I'm looking for something, I definitely drive, I think, the slowest. What do you think, Dave?
Maybe.
David? I need to find something to... what are you doing, David?
That's selfie stick.
Yes, it's my GoPro stick. But there's one more road I want to check, Batalia. So there's been no tracks. I'm sorry, not Batalia, Vulture's Nest. We've checked Batalia, which is on the other side of this river system. We've now checked Nyala Road South, still no tracks. So if we don't find anything on the central junction here, then we'll check down Vulture's Nest. Okay, well, Steve said I might know what is the biggest coalition of male lions ever recorded. Well, it depends on your definition of a coalition, how long they stayed together. But the woodpecker, he's not landing there. The biggest coalition that I've heard of is the skybed males, but they didn't stay together for very long. They left, I think there were 9 of them, but then they split quite early. The biggest coalition I know about staying together for extended periods is 6 males. And that was the Mapojos in the early days. I'm just trying to think. I've seen another Salati males with 6 in the early days as well, I think. Let's try to remember now. 5-6 is big, and then normally they might not stay together the whole time. They might split into 2 after a while. I think in the Mara, the biggest coalition I know of would have been, and we were lucky enough to see the end of some of them. Dave actually had some incredible sightings of the Notch Boys. Dave, remember that one morning up on Lookout Hill?
Oh, yeah.
When we know we didn't have any lions, and it was getting close to that time, and we had been driving and searching all night, and we drove up onto the top of Lookout Hill. We're like, okay, let's just stop here, and hopefully, I think it was about 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, like hopefully something just roars. And so as we got out of the car, about 50 meters in front of us, both Notch Boys that morning. And then a separate time also around Lookout Hill, we had Dave's also the only person I know who's managed to sleep through a lion fight right next to the car. Deep sleeper, very deep sleeper. That was the same morning. So we were with which pride is it now? They call them Lookout, or there's another name for them, I remember just now. But we were with the 2 females and some sub-adults, and they had killed a wildebeest. The migration was all around us, and we were waiting. We were probably 10 meters from them. The camera panned on them, and we were both, I think I was reading my book, and Dave was having a sleep. He's a deep sleeper, as he said. And then all of a sudden, this lioness shot up, ran behind the car, both the lionesses, and there was just... And there was a young male that had surprised them, and these lionesses attacked him. David! I was like, David! Wake up! Lion fight! Lion fight! And David was like, oh no, what are you talking about? And I mean, it was deafening, the noise right next to us. It was a long... We had some long nights in the Mara. I think we'd been out there for our 3rd night in a row or something. Thank you, Paul, for my impressive noises there. But that morning, remember, we were with a big male who arrived later, one of the Notch Boys, and it must have been 100,000 wildebeest down below to the east of Lookout, and the sun was coming up, and we just had this male lion marching, and it was very, very impressive. Okay. Oh, still no sign of Kandi. Now, sometimes if you're unlucky, you are not born to a pride with lots of little males, like that poor Nkahuma male. And when he leaves, he's going to go off on his own. I will continue to... no, don't. You got him, Dave? Oh, he's still there. At the back. Let me just try. See him flapping there? There he is. Well, he's just behind a leaf there, that little chin spot batis. Chip, chip. So batis is off he flops. Little fly catchers. So Debbie, if they can, they will join a coalition. Now, we've seen a male try join a coalition in the Mara and get severely beaten up, and I'm not sure whatever happened to that male lion, but he was denied access to that coalition of 4 boys around Hammerkorp. And now, sometimes male lions don't find a coalition to join when they're in that right sort of age group between sort of 2.5 and 4.5, and after that they're very seldom that lions will accept into their coalition. And what happens to those males is they actually become semi-nomadic if they're not killed in their process of trying to join coalitions. They become semi-nomadic or even fully nomadic, and these guys, they're very sneaky. So the way they make sure that their genetics are passed on is they will sneak in and mate with the lioness without the coalition or males knowing, and then sneak off. Oh, the elephants have had a good time here. Look at that, how they've flattened all the grass here. And so they do that, and genetic studies in certain areas have proven that up to 40% of the cubs born to a pride could be from these sneaky males. Now, that is, again, quite often area specific, so it might not happen as much here as it does somewhere else, because I think, well, see, for us it's quite difficult, because you need about 8 to 10,000 hectares to follow a pride every day, and unfortunately we are unable to, use the Nkuhumas head off into properties where we can't go quite frequently, and especially with that Kruger boundary there, it's very possible that there's been some sneaky boys who've come in, done the deed, impregnated the ladies, and then disappeared. So Etosha National Park is where I think the last genetic studies on the cubs there was 49% of the cubs were born to not the coalition males, were born to those nomadic males that sneak in and sneak out. In one pride, 49%. Oh no, don't despair. There we go. Right on top, there's a little guy looking at us. Hello. On the opposite end of the spectrum to lions, of course, the dwarf mongoose. They are very cute, and keeping a close lookout. There's more coming up from the bottom. Hello, little ones. Every one of my favourite little creatures that we see frequently. Very busy. You see how they look up to the sky like that, making sure there's no avian predators around. Hello. They're so curious, but also generally only curious when they know they've got a safe spot, like a termite mound, to bolt down a hole. Have you seen a leopard? Have you seen Tandi? Has Kalamba harassed you today? No? Maybe? Not giving away anything? Got a flea? Or 3? Why, thank you, Andrew. He says, well spotted. Yes. So often what we're looking for when we spot things is movement or something slightly out of the ordinary. Because we're out here every day, like any other muscle, you can train your eyes. That you'll notice people when they first arrive on safari, they can't even see an impala in front of them. By the 3rd or 4th day, as their eyes get accustomed to spotting shapes and colours that look a little bit different from the surrounding bush, it becomes much easier for the guests to even see stuff. Now, it's always good to sit and listen quietly for a second. Well, Angie, I'm having to confess I have absolutely no idea whether mongoose smelt like ferrets. I've never smelt a ferret. I have no idea what a ferret smells like. Mongoose smell like mongoose, though. A little bit musky. Of course, they demarcate their territory by defecation and anal pasting. So they do have a little bit of a musky smell. That funny colour change you saw there was Dave changing ND filters just to get you a better picture as it's got a bit dark. Oh, these batis are going bonkers behind us. Can you hear that? Chit, 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 chit. I'm just going to see quickly. If we can get another nice view of those batis. We didn't have a good view of the batis earlier. It's such a pretty little flycatcher as well. Let's try to see. It sounds like they're in that one. I can hear them. They should be... I saw one fly out. Bobby says ferrets do have a slightly musty smell. Well, then it's possible. As I say, till I've sniffed a ferret, I have no idea. And that's probably something I never thought I would say in my life. No, I can't tell you till I've sniffed a ferret. Okay, so still no sign of our beloved Thandi. So I'm just going to keep checking very carefully down this road. There has been a big herd of elephants through here during the day that might have obliterated her tracks. In the meantime, let's go to Hosana with David.
Right, Brent, keep working hard and good luck for Thandi again. And if not, you can get some elephants, which are pretty interesting to see in this kind of weather. And Hosana is still there, napping. He had been rolling and turning over and just enjoying his sleep. And hopefully, Mercy, if you're still on board, I hope you're still on board. I have an apology to make. And James corrected me and told me, yes, we got springboks in South Africa, but we do not have them where we are. Neither do we have them in the Greater Kruger National Park. My apologies there, Mercy, but now I know better. Hopefully you know that springbok is the national animal of South Africa. My apologies there again, Mercy. On an extension, just to let you know, we also have a different type of antelope in Kenya called the topi that is not found here, but its related cousin or subspecies would be the CCB. We've got the CCB here, which is very, very similar to the topi in Kenya. Must have been very, very full, Hosana, from that remnants they took from Thandi. Djuma, good question there. And you'd like to know whether there are any famous leopards in the Mara. Unfortunately not, because the ball game there is very different from here. And what would happen is we never get that close to leopards Namara as we do here. Initially, as I was turning the car around to get this close to this leopard, I was a bit scared, and James just told me again to relax. What could be famous in the Mara now are cheetahs and cats like leopards, and there's one particular one called Malaika, which has featured in so many documentaries, BBC, Big Kadari, Nat Geo. So unfortunately we don't have any big famous leopards in the Mara apart from the cheetah. Maybe in the near future that might change, and the rules should be a bit flexible, and they'll allow us to follow, or Safari Life to get so close to some of the leopards if that changes, and we'll have special characters for you, like how we have the characters in the Djuma, Hosana, Shidulu, Tandy. We'll see how things go. I hope that helps answer your question, Djuma, there. Emma, you'd like to know what is my favorite animal, and my favorite animal is the elephant. Elephants, I'm sure you all know what they mean to most people, and if you're rather low, tired, they'll wake you up and they'll cheer you up on how they behave, being so intelligent, and rarely you'll see an elephant spending more than 2 minutes doing nothing. So Emma, my favorite big animal is the largest land mammal, the ellie, or the elephant. Hopefully this leopard will do something here. As you can see, the cloud is still building. I don't know what, Seb, you think if you look in the sky there. Do you think there's any cause for alarm? Oh, this should be fine. Does this happen?
It's raining in full spread, so it's not very far.
I hope you got that from Seb. We got some, it's spitting a little bit in a town not very far from where we are. But I think we're fine. So long as we got Hosana here, all looks good to me. And I can tell you, I'm still feeling lots of excitement with this beautiful cat, this close, and not worried in any shape or manner by us being here. Again, I don't want to keep telling you this, but we are not living here, and Steve is still making steps.
We are indeed making steps. I normally at least get the 10,000 steps by the time we get back. But we've now come all the way down. We're in the Milwati drainage, looking for any signs. Last tracks of Tandi and Klalamba were a little bit further south from where we are now. So in this drainage, this is a very, very popular sort of area for her. We're making headway, but nothing to report as of yet. It is a wonderful afternoon. It is very quiet. There's a few birds making noises, but other than that, the odd impala rutting in the background, but nothing too much to be concerned with as VM tries to navigate this very big and fallen dead tree. And how it died, probably to do with a little bit of porcupine damage. Initially, we can have a look at the base of it here, and we think of elephants as the big destructive parts out here, but you can clearly see the base of this tree, that the bark was damaged over here, and that probably could have been a porcupine very long time ago that did that initial damage, and then slowly over time, because the bark, the outside bark, which is there to protect it against sort of insects and fire, got removed, and so the wood got rotten inside, got infested with wood borers, and slowly over time the inside of the tree would have perished, and this is what's happened. Obviously, maybe once it got weak, the wind would have snapped it where it is there. But a beautiful habitat tree. You can see the marks where the woodpeckers have been doing their thing, looking for the wood-boring insects. That's the sound of the bearded woodpecker as he does his drumming. And loaded inside there, the woodpeckers will tap and tap and tap against dead wood like this and actually listen for the movement of little grubs inside that are feeding on the wood inside the tree itself, and then they'll peck with a chisel-like motion, this way, and that way, this way, that way. And in they'll go with their very long hooked tongue, pull it out again. Did you hear that? Is it elephants? We heard something. Herbie doesn't look too concerned. We hear things because we've got earpieces in, myself and Vilby, and you're never quite sure what direction it came from. But the woodpeckers with their long tongue, once they've excavated a small hole, they flick in their tongue and it pulls out the grub, and then lovely. And other birds or other things can make those holes bigger, and then you've got lovely nesting space for many, 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 many years. And how many years this was used as nesting before it fell down is hard to say, but this is slowly going to get decomposed back into the soil right here where we have it. And you can imagine how many insects and reptile species will live their life using this as home for very, very long time. I mean, it's going to take probably 15 years, maybe 10 years for this to officially completely decompose back into the soil. That is an estimate. And think about, I mean, insects, you get 2 life cycles, sometimes a year, depending on the rain, 3, 4. So multitudes of insects, just this one tree, caused by the damage of probably a little rodent in the name of a porcupine. So marvelous how all these things fit together, and nothing is separated from the other. Everything is connected, even this river system itself. It is connected with the trees and the soil and the grasses. Bobby, I will see if I can find some flowers for you. The very light sprinkle we had yesterday has popped out some yellow justicias, and I saw some bushveld violets as well earlier, but not too many flowers at the moment. They are kind of fading. As the rain has stopped, the flowers have kind of dissipated and moved away. But with that light sprinkling yesterday, I was commenting to VM earlier that the bushveld violets were popping out again. But if we do find some, I will most certainly get them on the camera for you, or I'll point them out and VM will get them on the camera. There's a go-away bird calling in the background. Okay, well, we're going to continue on in search of some tracks and some flowers, of course. And while we do that, let's go and see what Brent is up to.
Well, we're going to go play swapsies again with James and David. They're going to head towards Chitwa Dam. Oh, Hosana is not far, and you better watch out, little steenbokkel. Lovely little male steenbok. He looks quite grumpy, doesn't he, Dave? A grumpy steenbok. Well, not grumpy. Not too grumpy. Well, carrying on eating. So what we're going to do is make sure we're with Hosana before David and James head on towards Chitwa, just in case he gets up and gets on the move. He might go for another little drink. He might come visit the dam. He might even come visit our houses and our camp tonight. He does that from time to time. Ooh, now that is an interesting question, some of you. I need to think a bit about this one. Which animal jumps the highest in Africa? Now, out of the antelope, it would be the kudu or the eland. And they can clear 2 meters from a standing start, but I'm trying to think. Leopards I've seen jump. Leopards can also jump incredible distance, but I'll continue, Samu, answering your question. As you can see, there goes James and Sebastian, and of course David. In case Sebastian was confused, he does use a camera, and he has to have, and just so everyone knows he's a cameraman, see on the back of his shirt it says film crew. Yes, Sebastian, we know you're on a film crew, Sebastian. So we're going to take over here from them, and we'll keep thinking about what animal jumps the highest in Africa. Now, as I said, baboons can jump pretty high, so can monkeys, but I think they can't jump as high as either a kudu or an eland, who from a standing start can go straight up and over a fence. Hello, Lazy. Are you going to just lie about all afternoon, or are you going to do something for us today? Doesn't he look comfy? Oh, breathing quite heavily there. He's not obesely full, but he's definitely happy full, I would call it, and he's a comfortable full. Now, you could just roll over so we could see your face, but no. They are absolutely exquisite creatures there. And now, of course, as much as we love our little chief, Omak, he is definitely a threat to Tlalamba. Now, most of the leopard cub mortalities in the Sabi sands that we know were perpetrated by leopard were made by leopard between sort of 2 and 5 years old. So he is definitely a threat to Tlalamba. Isn't that wonderful? It's very special that we are able to just sit with these creatures at this distance. It is amazing. Now, I've been lucky enough to work all over Africa, and I've worked in areas where we don't have leopards that have been habituated for years, and we've actually had to habituate them ourselves. And it is a very challenging but very rewarding process. And we're busy doing it, so, well, when I get the chance and stuff, and my dad's doing it on the reserve where he lives, because those leopards were not habituated. All the flies getting to him up there. Flickety flickety, yeah. And now, one of the most interesting ways to do it is to get one of those old sort of, I've forgotten what radios they are, but normally play the old English radio channels, and what you do is, if you find a female who's got cubs, and you find where her den is, or if you know there's a kill in a tree, you park 100 meters away and you leave the car there, but you leave the radio on, so they get used to the sound of people talking for the whole night, and just carries on. And as you work that process, you start at 100 meters, and then slowly you do 10 to 15 meters closer every time you spend more time with that animal. It's much easier to relax leopard cubs than it is to relax leopard adults. So you generally try to get the cubs to relax mom. Although young males, if you catch them in the right sort of age, when they're just sort of leaving home, they can also be relatively easy to habituate. Now, the leopard population of South Africa, Minamu, I'm just trying to rack my brain now. I think it's around 2,500. Might be a bit more than that. I'm going to have to double check for you, Minamu, what is the leopard population of South Africa. If I remember correctly, I remember somewhere in my head I have the figure of 2,500, but I could be wrong. I will double check for you though. Maybe, I think it's that. Was that Southern Africa? Oh, lazy kitty. But of course, spending time with Hosana is always special, because he is a busybody, and he might get up and go on a mission. Now, when they talk about populations, it's difficult because they it's because they're only doing the sort of 60. Well, they're only the adults. So in terms of what numbers they'll be counting the males and females of breeding age. So all cubs and sub-adults would be sort of off limits. They wouldn't really, or not off limits, they just wouldn't count them because of the high mortality rates a lot of these big cats have. And there's a lot of varying different data out there. I remember, but it is quite difficult. I say safely we're somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 leopard in South Africa. Might be a bit higher, but I don't think it's definitely not lower than 2,000 leopard. So it's amazing. You read all this stuff and then the figures get lost somewhere there up in the grey matter. Now, Brent Lio Smith, number 2, would like to know, are there leopards in West Africa? Well, I'm very honoured that you have named your handle somewhat after me. Yes, there are. But in certain parts of West Africa, the leopard populations are healthy. But in the vast majority of the cases, the leopard populations in West Africa are under threat. So, as I was saying, I just wanted to see if I could find that information for you quickly on. And yes, as I said, there's a huge, wide variety in terms. It says that there's anything from 2,800 to 11,000 in South Africa. So, and the greater Kruger area, which is Limpopo, Mpumalanga, this area, is definitely got the largest in the country. It's estimated between 1,000 and 4,500 leopards just in this area. Now, of course, this area probably, Kruger, Limpopo, there are no major big cities really, like Johannesburg or Durban or whatnot, and specifically this eastern section along the Mozambique boundary is made up almost entirely of game farms, and obviously the Greater Kruger itself, and private game reserves and hunting farms and cattle farms. So it's probably the longest stretching single habitat for leopards in South Africa. So makes sense that there would be the largest. Oh, there we go. We're going to give us. There we go. Roll over. Okay. Well, I'm going to do a little bit more reading on the statistics. And statistics can be very dangerous unless you make sure you understand them before you start spewing them. So while I do that, let's send you across to Steve and see where he's tramping around next.
Well, we are on the road. We found tracks of Thandi and Tlalamba coming out of the Milwaukee drainage up onto Nyala Road. I heard Brent was checking Batalia earlier. I'm not sure if he came down this way. Someone has driven here. But here is a track of a female leopard. There's the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the back pad is heading in that direction. This is the right foot, sorry, the left foot. You can tell that by the fact that that toe, just like my finger, is a longer one. Very good. So they are headed this way. Herbie's also seen tracks of Tlalamba. They're not very clear, but we're going to track them. This drainage line between Nyala Road and Batalia Road, right into the drainage that joins the Milwaukee, is very thick, and she likes to spend time here, so maybe they're there. But we're going to walk, and we're going to be very quiet. This is the time to start listening for the francolins and the spurfowls and the bushbuck and all those animals that let us know when the predators are nearby. And this is the sort of stuff we got to go through. Look at that. If I find a leopard in there, well, at least I don't have a vehicle today. I'm not going to be falling in any holes that we know of. But let's go. Let's catch up with Herbie and see what he's got to say. Pixel, my favorite leopard without a doubt is the little chief Hosana, who is there with Brent at the moment. Or should I say Brent is there with him. It's hard to say. We know that Hosana likes to just sort of make himself known when there's a vehicle nearby. He's just like, where are you guys? Why aren't you looking for me? What's that, Herbie? Up and down, eh? Okay, so we got tracks here. That is the rain we had yesterday morning. You can see how it's got a little bit hard on it. And that is the track there. Nice and soft, where she stepped on sort of slightly wet track from yesterday. But then they've also turned around and come back again. There's a little mud wallow here. It's very muddy. What do you think, Baba? We're going to keep going this way. Maybe if it was just playing, you know, up and down, up and down. Oh, here's the track going back. So we're going to try and make head or tail of what's going on here. Let's go over to that very gracious and very nice gentleman, David. See what he's looking for now.
Yeah, Tandy becoming quite elusive, and I can't believe the Hosana sighting. That's going to be a big highlight for me today. Yesterday it was Tandy and Talalamba. Today the brother Hosana. I don't know what shall be tomorrow, but isn't that wonderful? It's amazing for me, and I'm not sure I might be moving here. James just smiles and says nothing. Our plan now is to get to Chitwa Dam and see the life in the water there and find out what could be happening. The other day we were there, lots of hippos there, kingfishers, so some African darters, maybe sea crocs, and hopefully we'll get a lot of action at the moment there. Let's go find out what could be happening. The temperatures have considerably gone down, and feels pretty good. Amanda, you'd like to know what is my native language. It could be easier if I tell you the big ethnic group or linguistic group I come from, that's called the Bantu, and that could make it easier for you. But if you've been to Africa, or you've been to East Africa, precisely Kenya, you have heard words like Jambo, Asante Sana, or Hakuna Matata. That's a dialect called Swahili. People say Swahili, but the actual name of it is Kiswahili. That dialect, but the bigger group for you to make it easier, I would say Bantu. What could be your native language, Amanda? I'm waiting, Amanda. Amanda, you'll forgive me. James tells me to slow down. Back home, slowing down, we should say pole pole. My apologies there, Amanda. Please, when you can, let me know on hashtag Safari Live, Twitter, what is your native language. You're not very far away from the Chitwa Dam. Did you hear that? People would like to hear me saying a few words in Kiswahili. I would start by saying the most important one, which is hello, bonjour, ciao, hola, which is jumbo. The second one would be asante sana, which means thank you very much. And the last one for today will be hakuna matata. So let's do 3 words or 3 sentences in a day, and every day we'll keep doing more. I hope that sounds good. And slowly now we are coming to Chitwa Dam. And to all of you, I'm waving Jumbo Hakuna Matata. All right, and as we get close to Chitwa Dam, we got something interesting there. Is that good for you, Seb? And this is our first welcome site to Chitwa Dam, and that is a waterback. When in Kenya, I've always said a waterback, and James said he prefers an aquaback. I'm not sure what he has been teaching me. Sometimes I've doubted whether he is throwing me under the bus, but I think he has done a pretty good job. In Kenya, we got another species of the aquaback or the waterback that's called the diffuser waterback. This particular one here is called the common waterback. James, help me understand. Do you have both species here or only one species? All right, James tells me this is the only species found here, which is the common waterback. You see that ring on its balm there. But when you see the other species in Kenya or in East Africa, the balm is all white. And that is around the Masai Mara area. And if you go further north, low elevation, semi-arid areas, a place called Laikipia, you see this particular one here called the common waterback. In general, as I was saying earlier, the dam will have a lot of life in it, and as the name suggests, waterback, they're always found near water. What a beautiful face she got there. Impalas, not very far from it, and then I'm sure you heard on your ambience there some hippos saying, David, welcome to South Africa. That ring there gives its name the common waterback. I mean, differentiated from the diffuser waterback. That's the dam you see in the background there, and we'll be slowly getting close there with Chitwa Dam on the other side. I mean, lodge on the other side, sorry. And on your screen, you can see some beautiful Egyptian geese flying there, a pair. I'm not sure you can hear them in the background. Excellent. Very vocal, very territorial birds, or very territorial geese they are, as much as they are ducks and not geese. It's a nice fall there of that common waterback. Right, many thanks, Amanda, and good to hear you have been into Kenya once. And now this time come to South Africa. Good to know. And native language, English? I don't know what you're talking about, Amanda. But thank you for bringing your answer back. And Hosana is still where it was with now Brent.
Yes, he has only managed to roll back the other way. Now, it is getting cooler, so we are hoping he might get up and on the move. He might head towards quarantine. Lots of male impala running around, rutting, making a fool of themselves. As I say, he's not desperate for a meal. The fly's still getting to him a little bit. You can see how he's flattened that little patch of grass on this side as he's rolled a couple of times in each direction. Oh, here we go. Now, Lily, who is only 7 years old, yes, it's possible that a predator could sneak up on him like a lion or a hyena, but even though it looks like he's fast asleep, he's still listening very carefully, and if anything goes ksh, ksh, ksh in the grass, he'll get up and he'll look to make sure it's not dangerous. So he should be okay. No, he didn't roll all the way over this time. Now, a very interesting question about a spotted friend who lives high up in very cold places, the snow leopards, Mark. They are part of the Panthera family, so not sorry, a direct family member to the leopards we get in Africa, but they are part of the extended Panthera family, which includes lions and tigers and jaguars, as well as snow leopards and our leopard that we're looking at right now. Now, the biggest threat facing leopards at the moment is not leopard side areas like we are now, because the majority of South Africa or Africa's leopard population occurs outside of protected areas, and in those areas it's where they face the biggest threat from quite a few different fronts. So you heard the starlings, Lily, flying there, and he lifted his head just to make sure when he heard them land on a branch that it wasn't anything to eat or anything dangerous. And so persecution by bycatch is the wrong word, but not the non-intended target. Subsistence snaring. Leopards can get severely injured by snares. Uncontrolled trophy hunting, uncontrolled hunting in general, and often that is done as a knee-jerk reaction from stock loss by commercial farmers, whether it be for goats or cows, and in the recent years the game farming industry in South Africa, where people have very expensive antelope, black impala and other abominations, and I'll explain why they're an abomination a little bit later. But so leopards, of course, find all these nice easy things all kept in a pen for them. So there's quite probably, I don't want to say for sure because it's busy being investigated at the moment, but probably quite a lot of persecution that happens by those game farmers, so that are farming high-profile, high-value species of wild game for sale. Being hit by a car on the big highways and main roads is another threat. Poisoning, and again, that's normally a knee-jerk to stock loss. And one of the things that Panthera is focusing on a lot at the moment is getting accurate data on the leopards and obviously the other predators that occur outside of these protected areas. So Hosana is pretty much about as safe as a leopard can be where he is at the moment. There's almost of him being killed by any outside factor caused by human beings. He's got far more, well, he's only got to worry about lions and hyenas and other leopards. But as I said, that game breeding industry, the reason that black impalas and stuff are are an abomination. So what happened in this industry at the moment is there's been, fortunately, a lot of that has crashed. I was very happy to hear that those prices have crashed. So what happens if they find a leucistic or a menelistic animal, they'll keep breeding them, and basically your genetic pool on a lot of those animals is tiny. So you have these really strange-looking inbred antelope and creatures that would not be occurring in the numbers they are if it wasn't for human intervention, because out in the wild most of the time they would have been eaten quite quickly, or an abnormal thing that happens every 20 years like king cheetah or white lions. And the same thing goes for white lions, and for that matter, in captivity, people have bred those lions so much. Almost every single lion park, horrible places, in South Africa and in Southern Africa, where you've got white lions, and that the genetic diversity of those white lions is absolute trash. They have no good for the overall well-being of a population. Same goes for a lot of the black leopards in captivity. So what's happened is someone has caught one somewhere, and they've caught another one, and they've basically kept inbreeding these poor cats till they sometimes look completely squonk. And I mean seriously squonk. I saw an inbred lion on one of these places once when we were doing some undercover stuff that was a full-sized male lion, except he had half-sized legs. He was like a corgi lion. It was the strangest looking thing in the world. But of course, a lot of you will know James did a little chat about that lion attack that happened near Tabazimbi.